Three, two, one. Hey everybody, this is Victor. I'm here with Greg. We're going to be talking about his journey thus far, how he went from wholesaling houses consistently to his first or to 34 or 31K net profit flip. How are you doing?
Good, good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Appreciate you taking the time as well. Just want to share your journey. You and I have been working together, I think like a month or two, or maybe even
Yeah,
three.
that's about right.
But
I think it's not quite a month. Yeah.
yeah. So it's been a short time, and we've had a ton of progress, and just want to share that story, and like share where you're at and where you're going. So as we get into it, like, what's your background?
Yeah, sure. So, I guess, if you take the story back long enough, I spent most of my adult life in the military and retired 6 years ago, but I still work for a defense contractor.
Mhm.
And it's all been aviation related. So the whole real estate bug bit me in the middle of all of that. And so I would reach out, do a little bit of real estate. I did a couple flips in the early 2000s. Managed to not lose my shirt in 2008, and then came back and did another flip after I had retired. And that was, and the last flip that I just did was, I say just about 3 years ago.
Mhm.
I bought from a wholesaler. So after doing that, I was like, wait a minute, he made how much to sell the house to me? And then I had to do all the work, and it took me 3 months and all the headache of selling. So I started looking into more of that. So that's what I've been doing is wholesaling for the last 2.5 years.
Mhm.
And a lot of that was, I realized that the more I could do that, it actually is a relatively inexpensive way to get a lot of education, because you meet a lot of other very successful flippers who have no interest in wholesaling. They have no interest in marketing. They just want to buy a house and they just want to put money into it and they just want to make a profit. So you meet those folks, you get their opinions about the houses that you're selling them. And some of them, they just want a house that they can, rent out as is. So for me, it was a very inexpensive way to get a lot of education. And then I think we met because through that journey, I was learning about ways to market for motivated sellers. I'd gone through cold calling, I'd gone through text messaging, I'd done some direct mail, and I stumbled on 𝐸∫𝐾𝐫's Facebook for motivated, or I guess it's Find Motivated Sellers Online.
Mhm.
And that was somehow, I think, how we got connected. And then basically just, I think in our connection via Facebook and following your journey, then I started realizing, hey, I do want to get back into flips, and you're doing it. And also you're offering to help others do it. So I was like, yeah, one of the things I definitely feel like, if I could change, like, what have I done in the past, is I would ask for help earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think that's really good advice. That's the same with me, by the way. Like I wish I asked for help. I had the wholesaling mentor who was 𝐸∫𝐾𝐫. I didn't really have a flipping mentor. I learned the hard way, making mistakes and like, oh, I guess I shouldn't do that anymore.
right.
Yeah. So what were some of the things like you struggled with before we got started together, like on the flipping side of things?
I think so. In the past, it was a lot of it was just not knowing. So, for example, like not having contractors in depth, not having a depth chart for each of the positions that you have to fill.
Mhm.
And so, if one person is your critical vulnerability, but you're stuck with them through the rest of the project, there's no way for me to shift and continue moving forward. And that's one of those expensive lessons that I learned the hard way, or I'm learning on my own. Whereas I feel like if I'd had a mentor, somebody who can who's been there, done that, can tell me, hey, wait a minute, what's your stumbling block? And it's the contractor's not doing what I asked them to do. Okay, well, here's how we fix that, or here's how you deal with that, so you can continue moving forward. So those are the kind of things that I was looking forward to, working with you, is kind of seeing how to solve those problems. Because I imagine they're not hard problems to solve. It's just I've never done it before. So if I'm making the mistake, it's an expensive mistake.
No, I think that's good advice. A lot of people, especially now, are like, how do I get good contractors? How do I keep them? How much do I pay them?
Right.
If they're not good, what do I do with them? What if someone doesn't show up? Like, there's a lot of these contractor questions that people typically have.
Yeah.
especially because this is new and you got to work with a couple contractors, not always just one contractor does everything A to Z. Sometimes you got to work with 4, 5, 6, you know?
Right.
Yeah. So spot on. Okay. So now you got a deal. You got a deal under contract. So that's fantastic. So to clarify, so it's under contract to be purchased here pretty soon.
Yep.
Then you got to go through renovations and you got to sell it. So all the numbers we're talking about is like projected numbers. That in mind, are you comfortable sharing the numbers, sharing the story of this flip you got?
Yeah, absolutely. So the origin of the deal, or, you know, where the lead came from is, to be fully honest, I do have a website, and I have been working on the search engine optimization, the SEO factors for my website. And I think we're also or at least we were in a mutual mastermind with somebody else for that as well. But the bottom line is the website seems to be working. It's just not, you know, it doesn't work nearly as well as, you know, it will, right? So, and this lead came in, he actually just called my number and left a message. It was the most bizarre lead I've had to date because he literally called the number, left a message, and then picked up the phone when I called him back. So unlike most of my other leads that come in via online, where I know their name, I know the address, I know their phone number and their email, and I can usually do a little bit of investigation on what's the property before I even talk to them. Mm-hmm. This guy, all I got was a voicemail on my CRM, voicemail, and I just called him back. So that was, to me, that was evidence that my SEO efforts are working because he found me via Google, and obviously I ranked high enough in his search that he called me. So anyway, so he called, I talked to him, turned out it's a family of, they're 5 adult siblings. Dad has passed away a while ago, and mom is now needs to go into an assisted living facility. And then they have, their youngest sibling has special needs. And so their whole purpose in selling this particular house, this is the house the kids all grew up in. It's a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath. It's built in, I want to say 93. I have to look at, anyway. Bottom line is they've been living there since they were all in their teens. And the youngest sibling with special needs is also going to need to have some part of an assisted living facility. So they wanted to sell the house to raise the funds in order to have him live by himself and then also help pay for mom's care as well. So that's kind of why they reached out to me. And so I went to go look at the house. It looked like it was in, it's been well lived in, but it's not, falling apart. It actually has a new roof, which is great. And the HVAC is less than 5 years old. Mm-hmm. So it's got a lot of really good potential. And then when I looked around at it, there's no need in that neighborhood to make any significant floor plan changes. Okay. And there's a couple of other homes in that neighborhood that have just recently been flipped. And to be honest, they've been flipped for a lot of money. So when I look at those comps, I'm like, wow, they put a lot of effort into it. And I don't know that I necessarily need to put that much effort into this one to get, halfway to that point. But the bottom line is that just the fact that there are other properties that were in similar condition, at the end of last year that are now being sold as flips. And, that tells me that this is a neighborhood that's going to be good for buyers, right? Not to mention, of course, we are in a buying frenzy right now. There's low inventory, low cost of barriers of entry, right? It's very cheap money for a home buyer to get into. So it's good for the guy that's got to sell his house. Anyway, and after talking to them, I think I told you this story already, but after talking to them, there was one individual who was my point of contact, even though he doesn't have the power to sign. So he has to go back and talk to his older brother and sister who have the power to sign. And so he arranged for me to go over, meet his sister, walk to the house, get all the pictures, all that kind of stuff, talk to them. I must have made a pretty decent impression because they right away were very happy with me sending them an offer. But he did find another, I'm assuming another cash buyer to come by and take a look at the property. Mm-hmm. I don't know anything about this other cash buyer. All I knew was that there was now competition. So I helped the seller kind of figure out how to kind of gauge it. I literally saw myself as just look, whether or not I buy this house from him is no longer the deal. What I need to do is help him figure out how best to solve his problem of selling the house
Mm-hmm.
and feeling like they're getting the best value. So I did. So I taught him about highest and best offers and all that kind of stuff. And he thanked me for it. And then the next day I sent him my highest and best offer. So I went up a little bit more money, but I still felt like it was within the 70% rule.
Mm-hmm.
And he accepted. They called me like the next day and accepted it. Yeah, exactly. Yay. And then it did take almost a week to actually get everything signed. And that was the whole, because I'm talking to one guy, but the other two are the ones that have to sign. So we talked about some details. One of the things was closing date, which in the end is very advantageous to me because it gives me some time to put everything together.
Mm-hmm.
You want to know about like the numbers as far as
numbers, like what are you buying it for? What do you expect to put into? What do you want to sell it for? Just like to get a rough sense of where it's at.
Yeah, absolutely. So so I think this will sell for 155, right in the mid 150s. I had my agent do this, and the agent that I used, she sold all of the houses that I've ever sold, like they weren't wholesales, and she's very conservative in her ARV, and she speaks the lingo, so she knows exactly what ARV is. Mm-hmm. She's very conservative in her ARV calculation, and she told me, hey, look, you'd be safe in the 150s, which tells me she's going to want me to list it in the 160s. Mm-hmm. So she said, hey, you'll be safe in the 150s. Okay, great. So do that backwards math. I'm purchasing it for $62,000. So $62,257. The 7 on the end of it was a technique I learned from Victor in negotiation. Have no idea if that played a part, but I like to think that it did. So $62,257, and I think we're going to be about $42,000 in for rehab. Mm-hmm. So that puts our all-in cost right about 110, and then the sales cost will be about 155. So after you subtract the sales cost, the agent, my half of the closing costs and that half and all that kind of stuff, it should be about a $31,000 to $32,000 profit.
31,000. Okay, yeah, I said it wrong at when we started. I said 34, 31, but okay, 31,000. Yeah, that's still awesome.
There's gonna be some things in there we just don't know yet until we get all the numbers right. Yeah, so it's gonna be about right there.
And then I like how you're being conservative. Like the realtor gave you a conservative number, so it might be a little bit more in terms of profit. But even still, like a 30K deal is really, really good. Like you can't do that. That's for sure.
Yeah, it'll be a good summer.
Yeah. Any insights to this entire process? We've been working together like a month or two. Any like insights into the flipping process? Anything you've learned so far?
Well, I mean, I guess the things I've learned, so far, and they're tiny, but they mean a lot. And so like the concept of leapfrogging, and I don't even remember. Oh, I remember what it was. You told me about leapfrogging my VA. I'll say it here.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
I have a VA, and when I say VA, virtual assistant, I mean, she literally lives here. She's actually the daughter of one of my friends. She just happened to be a college graduate, and she's a marketing girl. Mm-hmm. So I asked her to help me with my some of my online marketing stuff. Bottom line is, I want somebody to help me with the BotFox thing, and so you told me about the leapfrogging because I thought about going to Voxer or going to Fiverr, which is still a viable method, but you talk about leapfrog. So then I'm thinking, okay, well, wait a minute. I can use that in other aspects, like, who do I know? Which contractors do I know that also know another contractor? So, oh, by the way, a deal that I wholesaled last December, I went over to check on it because the guy I sold it to, he told me I can come by and check on it anytime, and I met his contractor. And I'm not trying to steal anybody's contractors, but now I have somebody else, right? And if he's not available, who does he know? So I learned the concept of leapfrogging. Again, could I figure that out? Probably in a few years, but it's just having somebody tell me that is, who do you know? So it's like, I can't believe I've not used that for this aspect. So definitely the concept of leapfrogging is, to me, I think it's going to be big.
I think it's powerful just because, like you said, you can use it for anything, like finding money, finding contractors. You can even do, I've heard for people finding deals, like who else do you want to know who wants to sell and on deals that way. You can use it for a VA to find employees. So it's powerful stuff. And I only figured it out because I did it once basically on accident. And I only figured it out like 4 months ago. So it took me a while, and it took me a while to get that. So I'm glad you have that insight. You don't have to learn through trial and error. So that's exciting.
Yeah, exactly.
On that thread, like, would you recommend others work with me as well?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the course that you put out, which I realized that's not the end of it, and I think that's ultimately that's really where the value. I mean, the course is not the value. The fact that the course is not the end of it is the value. The fact that you had the 6-week course, and full disclosure, I haven't gone through all of it yet,
Mhm.
but there's plenty of material in there. I do have more experience probably than some of your other students have had getting started.
Mhm.
So some of the material is repetitive to me, but it wasn't so repetitive as to be worthless. It was still there's still worthwhile information in there. So after a couple of lessons, I was like, I can't skip through this. I can maybe go at 1.5 time or whatever, but I can't skip through this because there's always gonna be something that I've learned through there. And so that alone is valuable. But then the ability to reach out to you, Voxer on the group page on Facebook is also valuable. It's something I've not seen before. I've worked with a couple of other mentors who have Facebook group posts or Facebook groups, and I will say that you're probably the most attentive
Mm.
to Facebook group of any of the ones I've ever been a part of. That where you actually when you post a lot, and then you actually seems like you read the comments of the people who comment on your post because it doesn't take but a couple hours and there's like 50 comments on any one post, and a lot of it is your students post, commenting, and then you answering the question.
Mhm.
um, and then the other thing is, I do like that when a student does ask a question, usually on the Facebook group, you answer the full question. Like you don't ever seem to be satisfied with a yep or good, or you take the time to maybe give the bottom line up front. Hey, this is the short answer to your question, but also this is a little bit of background as to why that short answer is there, and then also this is where I've seen it used in my life. So
Mm.
I like that you take the time to answer the question, to answer the full question, and it may be some people might find it redundant, but I don't. I appreciate it.
No, I'm glad that's valuable. I try to like answer it fully and like relate it to me and relate it to the person and make it
Yes.
actionable. So I'm glad that's valuable. That's good feedback for me as well.
Cool.
So I appreciate it. So again, I very much appreciate you doing this. This has been fantastic. Just to share your journey, from wholesaling to you got this flip going, and I'm excited. And I'm here to help. So any questions you have, feel free to reach out. But
Yeah.
do appreciate as well you taking the time. Any final thoughts as we wrap up here?
No, I'm excited to see how this project works out. And we talked about sort of, my strategies, going forward. And like, I think I told you, I'm, still a little nervous about this particular flip because it's been so long since I've done this.
Mhm.
And so I'm excited to see how it works out. And I assume you want to probably talk about it when I'm done and
Yes.
see how everything worked out. So,
Yeah.
so anyway, I'll definitely be looking forward to doing that.
Cool. Well, I'm excited. Well, appreciate it, Greg. Thanks so much. And yeah, until next time.
All right. Thanks, Victor. Appreciate it.